And to finally complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. Authorities cannot yet confirm if the grenade blast at a mosque in Masjid Chutay in Zamboanga City on Tuesday is connected to the twin bombings in Jolo, Sulu on Sunday. According to Zamboanga City Police, the explosives used in last night's bombing in Zamboanga was in no way similar to the ones used in Jolo. Police say the incident in Jolo was caused by an improvised explosive device, while a grenade launcher was used in a mosque in Zamboanga City. 2 people were killed and 3 others were injured in the said incident. Authorities are still investigating the possible motives behind the Zamboanga City blast.
Yan, marami naman kasi ang gulo dyan. Ang insidente na yan, hindi lang siguro konektado sa Jolo kasi yung Jolo ay ED yun. Dyan, grenade throwing yan. Baka may personal gadgets din yan kasi yung mga tao dyan na pumunta, hindi naman taga rito. At saka yung iba dyan, may isang biktima natin yata is Barangay Kagawad and baka politika rin.
Malacanang has condemned the Zamboanga City bombing, calling the latest act of terror as a taunting challenge to the government's capability of securing the safety of the people in Mindanao. Malacanang has vowed a relentless pursuit against those behind the attack. Meanwhile, 4 men who were among those tagged by authorities as persons of interest in Jolo blasts based on CCTV footages are now in police custody. According to PNP CIDG Director Amador Corpus, the 4 reportedly appeared before the police to deny any participation in Jolo bombings that left 20 people dead. Corpus said the police are currently taking the testimonies of the 4 men, but details about their identity are yet to be relayed by the regional police office. Meanwhile, authorities are still looking at the possibility that a suicide bomber carried out the twin explosions in Jolo. According to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, the attack appeared to be a suicide bombing due to the body parts that were found on the premises. However, no group has claimed membership of the 2 alleged suicide bombers, despite the claims of the Islamic State militants that it carried the suicide attacks. Lorenzana says a DNA test has been ordered on acclaimed human fragments in the blast site to verify the nationality of the alleged suicide bombers.
Marami kasi body parts doon nakita kami. Mayroong mga paa doon, mga part ng ulo, tapos meron pa nakasabit doon sa may pader, sa may fence. It appears to be suicide bombing. And I was also convinced immediately na baka suicide bombing yun. Ano? I don't know how we are going to find out who he is by DNA, but maybe we can find out what nationality, o Filipino ba o foreigners.
The Davao City government has ordered the imposition of a no backpack policy in all houses of worship across the city following a series of terror attacks in some parts of Mindanao. The policy, ordered by Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio, emphasized that churchgoers should bring small bags or purse for easy monitoring and to avoid being suspected of illegal activities. The military and police also augmented its ground forces to inspect and monitor houses of worship across the city. Local authorities appealed for the public's understanding in the implementation of stringent security measures in the city. In other news, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources is now monitoring government offices that are reportedly dumping waste materials into Manila Bay. This is following the issuance of cease and desist orders on private establishments over the absence of sewage and facilities. The DENR is looking at establishments surrounding Estero de San Antonio Abad, which include Hospital ng Maynila Medical Center and Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Estero de San Juan Antonio Abad directly drains into Manila Bay and has recorded 1.3 billion most probable number per 100 millimeters of fecal coliform content.
Yung Bangko Sentral at Hospital ng Maynila, they're being monitored by LLDA. So, connected naman daw sa sewer lines, pero titignan natin yung compliance nila if they're really complying with the Clean Water Act.
The DENR says if these government offices were found violating regulations, their outflows will be shut down. But they will face permanent closure if they continue to ignore the order to fix their sewage facilities.
Maraming establishment na ganun yung protocols of closing. Only the source of pollution.
President Rodrigo Duterte has urged the public not to be scared of getting vaccines for their children. The president's call is amid a declining number of parents availing government's free vaccination program following the fiasco on anti-dengue vaccine Dengvaxia. The Department of Health noted a 40% drop in measles vaccination last year after the public's trust in government immunization eroded. Duterte said the public should not fear immunization to protect children from possible outbreak of diseases.
Simula yung nagkaroon ng gulo dito, maraming mga pamilya dito sa Pilipinas, hindi lang sa Malabon, na natakot ng mga itong vaccination at ayaw na. Do not be loud and be complacent about it kasi ang sanggol talaga kailangan. Yung Dengvaxia lang, kung ayaw ninyo, okay lang. But lahat ng anak ninyo, hindi naman tayo nagkulang sa bakuna because it is good and it is for the health of the person. Yung maliit pa hanggang lumaki.
Meanwhile, lawmakers from the House Makabayan bloc strongly condemned the murder of National Democratic Front of the Philippines peace consultant Randy Felix Malayao in Nueva Vizcaya before dawn on Wednesday. Malayao was reportedly sleeping inside a bus when a gunman climbed aboard and shot him twice. Prior to his death, Malayao represented Cagayan Valley in the peace negotiations of NDFP on political and constitutional reforms before it was canceled by the government. House Makabayan lawmakers denounced the murder of Malayao, calling it an attack against peace advocates and human rights defenders.
Ang atake na ito kay Randy, ang pagpatay sa kanya, ay bahagi talaga ng all-out na atake ng Duterte administration sa mga progressive party list ng Makabayan.
And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, William. British Prime Minister Theresa May will call for a reopening of negotiations after her Brexit deal, which was rejected earlier this month, wins majority support in British Parliament. Jovic Bermes tells us why.
British Prime Minister Theresa May was closer than ever on Tuesday to finally reaching an elusive Brexit deal. By 317 votes to 301, MPs in the House of Commons gave their backing to May's deal, which they rejected earlier this month, provided that changes are made to the so-called Irish backstop border issue. The 16 majority for her deal gives May a mandate to return to Brussels to call for a reopening of negotiations and indicates that the Brexit deal is likely to win the critical final vote in British Parliament if changes are made to the Irish border issue. Veteran MP Sir Graham Brady has been hailed as the hero of the night by including a crucial addition to May's rejected deal. It says the deal requires the Northern Ireland backstop to be replaced with alternative arrangements to avoid a hard border.
It is now clear that there is a route that can secure a substantial and sustainable majority in this House for leaving the EU with a deal. We will now take this mandate forward and seek to obtain legally binding changes to withdrawal agreement that deal with concerns on the backstop while guaranteeing no return to a hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
May and her senior advisors are not waving victory flags at the moment, with the developments in London receiving a frosty reaction in Brussels and Dublin. The Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar said in a statement issued later in Dublin, the withdrawal agreement is not open for renegotiation. A spokesman for Donald Tusk, President of the European Council, said that the backstop is part of the withdrawal agreement and the withdrawal agreement is not open for renegotiation. The Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, who earlier in the evening lost a vote that would have avoided a no-deal outcome, said he was now prepared to meet May to discuss Brexit.
Because since we've had this debate and the House has emphatically voted to reject the no-deal option, that the Prime Minister was supporting. Could I say that we are prepared to meet her, to put forward the points of view from the Labour Party of the kind of agreement we want with the European Union to protect jobs, to protect living standards and to protect rights and conditions in this country.
May plans to discuss developments with the EU ahead of returning at a later date to the British Parliament for a meaningful date needed on a deal with Brussels. Britain is scheduled to leave the EU on March 29. Jovic Barmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
U.S. intelligence chief contradicts the claims of President Donald Trump for having a progress in talks with North Korea on denuclearization. Here's why from Beverly Saison.
North Korea is unlikely to give up all of its nuclear weapons and has continued activity inconsistent with pledges to denuclearize, apparently contradicting President Donald Trump's claims of big progress with Pyongyang. U.S. National Intelligence Chief Dan Coats' downbeat assessment in testimony before a Senate committee came just weeks ahead of a planned second summit between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The American president is hoping for a big foreign policy win from the meeting. The annual worldwide threat assessment from the Directorate of National Intelligence, or DNI, released by Coats, noted that North Korea had not conducted any nuclear or missile tests in over a year and had declared its support for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Pyongyang had also reversibly dismantled parts of its infrastructure for weapons of mass destruction, the report said.
We currently assess that North Korea will seek to retain its WMD capabilities and is unlikely to completely give up its nuclear weapons and production capabilities because its leaders ultimately view nuclear weapons as critical to regime survival. Our assessment is bolstered by our observations of some activity that is inconsistent with full denuclearization.
Washington has demanded concrete actions such as full disclosure of North Korea's nuclear and missile facilities. Pyongyang is seeking a lifting of international sanctions and an official end to the 1950 to 1953 Korean War that ended with an armistice, not a peace treaty. The White House has said Trump will hold a second summit with Kim around the end of February, but the economic sanctions will be maintained. On January 19th, Trump said he had had an incredible meeting with North Korea's nuclear envoy Kim Yong-chol in Washington, and the two sides had made a lot of progress in denuclearization. Earlier Tuesday, North Korea's ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva, Han Tae-song, said relations with the United States would develop wonderfully at a fast pace if Washington responded to Pyongyang's effort on denuclearization with trustworthy measures and practical actions. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
Polish Veterinary Department withdraws approval to operate for a slaughterhouse following discovery that it butchers sick cows and sells their meat for human consumption. Meanwhile, a Twitter executive urges FaceTime users to temporarily disable the app as videos of an Apple iPhone glitch spread online. Kat Carriedo tells us why.
In Poland, Poland's chief veterinarian has ordered controls in slaughterhouses after secret filming broadcast at the weekend show the company butchering sick cows and selling their meat for human consumption. Poland produces about 560,000 tons of beef a year, with 85% exported to countries including Britain, Spain, Italy, and Germany. The footage showed sick cows being transported to the slaughterhouse and preparation of their carcasses, with recorded conversations between employees discussing the poor quality of the meat, according to statements released on the Chief Veterinarian Officer's website. The agency has withdrawn approval for the slaughterhouse to operate and ordered immediate inspections in close cooperation with the police. In USA, a photographer in St. Joseph Lake, Michigan, shared photos and video of water iced over on Tuesday morning. The video shows pieces of ice moving with the waves above water at Michigan Lake, while photos show the lake and nearby St. Joseph River. A blast of Arctic chilled air from the polar vortex brought dangerous, record-setting cold to a wide swath of the eastern United States on Tuesday, stretching from the Dakotas through Maine, with snow expected as far south as Alabama and Georgia. The National Weather Service said the Midwest will be the hardest hit area, with a life-threatening wind chill bringing temperatures down as low as negative 46 degrees Celsius in the Chicago area and northern Illinois. A state of emergency has been declared in the Midwestern states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois, as well as in the normally more clement southern states of Alabama and Mississippi. Meanwhile, an Apple iPhone glitch that connects users prior to them accepting a call was filmed by users and shared online on Monday.
So here's the phone. Not answering. Nick Cardi is there.
What's up?
This is nuts. I didn't answer. Here's the phone. It's still on the lock screen, but you can obviously Nick talk.
Yo, what up?
That's crazy. All right, cool. Bye.
On Monday, Apple said it was working on a software patch to solve the problem. Twitter Chief Executive Jack Dorsey tweeted that people should disable FaceTime until Apple fixes it. Kath Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. MMA fighters Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov will not be allowed to compete in the next 6 to 9 months following their post-fight brawl in October. Meanwhile, former world #1 Andy Murray undergoes a hip surgery in London several weeks after he bowed out of the Australian Open. Vincent Arboleda tells us why.
The Nevada State Athletic Commission voted on Tuesday to suspend and fine MMA fighters Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov following a post-fight brawl between the two in October. Nurmagomedov won the Las Vegas fight at UFC 229 against McGregor in the 4th round, leaving the Russian fighter unbeaten in his career at 27-0 and retaining the UFC Lightweight Championship. But soon after the fight, Nurmagomedov climbed the side of the cage and dived into the crowd, where a melee took place between his camp and McGregor's. The Irish competitor also battled with some members of Nurmagomedov's team inside the octagon. Nurmagomedov is fined for 9 months and fined $500,000, while McGregor faces 6-month suspension and a fine of $50,000. 2 members of Nurmagomedov's were also fined and banned. The lead up to the fight was also contentious, as McGregor was arrested in a separate incident earlier in the year after a rampage at a UFC press event in Brooklyn. Former world #1 Andy Murray said on Instagram on Tuesday that he underwent a hip resurfacing surgery in London. The 31-year-old 3-time Grand Slam winner Murray has struggled to regain form since undergoing a hip operation last January. He was knocked out in the first round of the Australian Open and said that the tournament could be his last as a professional. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
And those are the reasons behind the news, January 30, 2019. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
UNTV, your public service channel.